What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I'm joined again today with SpeckzoPolitics on the first Sunday of Lent. I hope your Lent is going well so far, man.
Yes, the first Friday I didn't eat meat at all, and then 11:50 I was with my coworker, and he was like, "Oh, you want to go get something to eat?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's Lent, we can't eat any meat." And he was like, "All right, let's go get pizza." And I was like, "No, let's just stop at 7-Eleven. I'll get like trail mix or something like that and hold me over." At 11:50 I ate chicken, and as soon as I finished, I was like, "Oh, I've never felt so much guilt for something I ate
Oh
before."
no.
I was so depressed.
Yeah, I mean, normally you shouldn't eat meat on Friday anyway if
Hmm.
you're adhering to, very
Hmm.
traditional standards, but especially during Lent, it's definitely
Yeah,
it's a change of pace for me. So I feel
10
you, man.
minutes.
It's
Yeah,
definitely a change of pace. But yeah, so on this video, like we were talking about before, there's not much research that went into this video. It's kind of wide ranging, kind of about the AF universe. And I feel like anyone who's watching this video kind of is already kind of in the loop about AF. But this coming week, if you don't already know, we have AFPAC coming up, America First Political Action Conference, perfectly juxtaposed against CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference,
cringe back.
Cringe Pack, Neocon Pack, whatever you want to call it. So we have that coming up this week. It'll be good to meet you in person for the first time, my dude.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I'm excited. The speaking list, except for one slot, which we'll know the night of.
Who do you think it's going to be?
My money, not my money. I wouldn't put money on this because it's so up in the air because I didn't expect Steve King. I'm going to go with DeSantis.
Yeah, I would think DeSantis. I was hoping for Tucker, but then I realized like if he would have spoke at AFPAC, he has so much to lose with his
Mhm.
Fox News stuff like that it wouldn't make sense to even do that. So yeah, I would probably say DeSantis or somebody like
Yeah.
that.
Well, the thing is that a lot of people were throwing names out there, and what I'm looking at is like comparing them to Steve King. So Steve King, in any other world, at a small conference like this, Steve King would be like the one that you wait until the very last minute to announce, as he should be
Hmm.
like the biggest speaker. This leads me to believe it's someone bigger than King or more influential. Not
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that's not a knock on
Hmm.
King. It's just like if we're already announcing
Yep,
that, then it's like who the hell else are you going to announce? So
that's what I thought too.
my money's on DeSantis. Originally, I thought that the slot that King had would be Darren Beatty, and I'm a
Hmm.
little not blackpilled, but like I really wanted to hear Beatty speak. But yeah, I mean, if my smart money is on DeSantis, we're not going to get a Hawley. He's too cucked. Yeah, I'm thinking DeSantis. What about you? Any other names you
I
got?
think that's like probably the main person I would think it is. Some people were suggesting Marjorie Taylor. I don't really think that's the person. Other people were suggesting John Doyle, which that it makes no sense because John Doyle, while he's good on some of the issues, he's definitely
Mm-hmm.
still a fence sitter.
Mm-hmm.
He won't like completely go in full support of America First. He's
Right.
obviously very articulate, has a high IQ, and can has good things to say about a lot of issues. But he's not nearly as popular as Nick Fuentes. So for
Correct.
it has to be somebody who is going to further legitimize the America First movement if he's not announcing it with along with Steve King. So I think it has to be a very prominent, big name person. Steve King is more popular with the older crew, so I think
Mm-hmm.
that whoever's next is going to be more popular with the younger Zoomers and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm holding out hope for this, and I'm not putting my money on this again. But I mean, what if we lucked out and got like a Pat Buchanan? And that's so unlikely, but that would lend so much credibility to the movement. That
That
would
was
be
my
unreal.
yeah, that was my dream guest that I was hoping.
Hmm.
But then he said in a super chat, and he said it so nonchalantly that it wasn't like it was like a planned gaslighting type of thing to sow
Hmm.
doubt or whatever. He was like, "Oh, I tried to get in touch with him, but I couldn't." But it was just like a off cuff comment. It wasn't something that seemed like planned. So I want to believe that maybe that's a surprise guest, and maybe he was just trying to like
Like be
make us,
coy or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But I mean, I hope so. I hope so. But he's old. He's 82 years old, so I don't know.
Exactly. And he's not very like social media, like he's not involved in Twitter or like the online sphere at all. So I'm not really thinking that. I think our best and it's not even it wouldn't even be a fall off. DeSantis would be huge. That would lend
Yeah.
again the credibility to the entire movement. But yeah, man, I'm excited. What do you think about the or wait, what were you gonna say?
Oh, and I was just going to ask how you're doing because I know that you're from Texas and you guys got like a quarter inch of snow, so
Oh
everybody's
yeah, yeah.
dying.
I
So
was gonna actually, I was gonna talk about that originally. I totally spaced that, but yeah, it's all melting today. We're good as far as the snow goes. So I was out of pocket for like 6 days. I lost my phone at a restaurant the day before the snow hit,
Mhm.
so I couldn't get my phone back or go to a phone store until yesterday. So I hadn't been tweeting or anything, but yeah, everything's good, man. The snow melted. The power was going out at my apartment and I couldn't work from here. So I went and stayed with some family kind of on the outskirts of Dallas for 3 or 4 days where they had perfect power. So
So what happened?
everything's good.
They designed the entire infrastructure of the state of Texas to work around like wind turbines, and as long as it never ever snows, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But it
So,
snows a little bit and everybody
well,
dies.
I did a little bit of research on this and come to find out it actually wasn't even Texas's mishandling of the situation. I just posted this on Instagram. Greg Abbott actually, our governor saw the polar vortex coming or whatever, and he actually filed for an EPA waiver to have Texas's fossil fuel plants or whatever run at like 110% capacity
Mhm.
because our energy output is, or all states' energy output is mandated by the Department of Energy and EPA. So he filed for a waiver to bypass that, and Biden's EPA rejected him. So Abbott actually saw this coming, and it's, I mean, not to go full boomer con here, but like, you know, government oversight is good as leads to deaths of old people. It's like, I mean, yeah, it's like unironically true. Like we tried to file for the waiver and that's what happened. But yeah, dude, the rolling blackouts were a bitch. I felt like I was in California or something. I saw what they kind of go through. You know, my power was out from 7 a.m. every day to 1 p.m. and then it would go out again from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m.
And a bunch of
Um,
people died, right?
yeah, yeah. It was really old people, old and poor people that died.
I don't know if you know
Um,
about Deagle, the website Deagle. So apparently it is connected to the government. It's like a government contracting website, and they have predictions of populations for different nations. And they predicted for like the last 10 years that by 2025, America would lose 3/4 of its population by the year 2025, right? Which makes no sense. Doesn't make any sense unless they were predicting a power outage, like a mass power grid
wow.
going out. And they say that if the power grid of the entire United States goes out, that I think it was like half of the country would be dead within the first 18 months. So that's pretty severe. It shows that like how fragile the system is.
Right, right. And that really ties into, you know, Ted Kaczynski, Uncle Ted type stuff. We're so reliant. And it was actually like a big wake up call for me because I like to view myself as someone who plans for the future and likes to, you know, look at what like large scale events are going to happen. And even me, I was like, damn, I'm actually pretty reliant on the system functioning as it does. And yeah, when you really think about something like the power grid going out, you really start to ask yourself like deep questions like, do I have enough food? Do I have like weapon? Like, do I have self defense if, you know, if it came to it? So yeah,
Yeah,
it really
because
makes you ask yourself some deep questions when the power goes out, you know?
everything is based on electricity, from the way we connect to each other, our money, ATMs, everything. Our money system is basically just numbers in a computer now, you know. So it's just
Exactly.
like everything is based on electricity and stuff. But
Exactly. I think something like over 90% of all money at this point is digital. Like there's like next to no physical money at this point.
yeah,
So, you know,
3% of our money is actually backed by tangible
yes, there
gold,
you
I
go.
believe.
I think I
Retarded.
saw that in like Zeitgeist or something back when I
Hmm.
was Zeitgeist filled. But yeah, man. So the speaking list came out. What did we see? We saw Michelle Malkin, John Miller, Nick, obviously Vince, and Steve King. What do you think about the list so far?
I think it's great. John Miller was based. I think he got banned from TPUSA for saying he wanted to see pedophiles dead, which is really cool.
You got the John Miller
But
retweet I saw.
yeah, that was awesome. I didn't know that he was friends with Nick Fuentes. I knew that he was like peripherally associated, or like they were cordial with each other. I didn't know that they were like on that type of level.
Yeah,
Well, same with Steve King, honestly. But
yeah. The Steve King thing came out of nowhere, but yeah, John Miller has always been friendly to America first, like overtly, like to where it's almost surprising that he was able to maintain a job with Blaze and whoever he works for now. But he was overtly in support of America First, and it's awesome. I met him a couple of times. I met him in Phoenix. He's just like a great guy. Like he's.
I remember he was on Facebook, and when I was on Facebook, all my boomer relatives would share a lot of his stuff. So I didn't know that he was like based. You know, I thought he was just like a regular normie con. And then I remember a clip was going around Wignat Telegram, I believe, of him saying something about Jordan Taylor, that what's it called? People were calling Jordan Taylor a white supremacist. No, is that
Jordan
is that
Taylor?
What's his name? I'm blanking out. The famous white advocate. He wrote White Identity. Really?
You got me. You got me.
It has to be Jordan. It has to be Jordan Taylor. I have to look that up. Yeah.
I don't feel like I know that name. That would resonate with me if I shared a first name.
What's his name? White Identity. Jared Taylor.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Now we're on the same page. Yeah, Jared, Uncle Jared.
Taylor. Sorry. So yes. That was a boomer moment. Holy crap. So John Miller was talking about Jared Taylor, that everybody's calling him a white supremacist and stuff like that, and he was saying like he's a white advocate, and why is it that only white people can't advocate for their racial group interests? And he was talking about Black Lives Matter and all these different caucuses and stuff, and he was basically using paleo-con nationalist talking points. And I was like, oh wow, he's way more based than I originally thought, but I still had no idea that he had any association with Nick Fuentes, which is pretty crazy.
And the cool thing with John Miller is that, like, you know, a lot of times what you see is that Black speakers get, I mean, you know this, we all know this, like on our side, but Black speakers get invited to conservative conferences and speeches and partnerships with conservative groups for all the wrong reasons. Like, they don't get associated with them because they believe the same things. They get invited like Diamond and Silk because they're Black, and they make, you know, white people feel not racist or something. But John Miller is like, he's aligned on the actual issues. Like if you asked him, is it wrong for, you know, white people to advocate in their own interests, he would like unequivocally say, no, that's fine. Like, obviously that's fine. Every group has the right to do that. So John Miller is totally aligned on the issues. And I think, again, that lends credibility to AFPAC, as we both wear our AF merch. But it's difficult to call it a white supremacist, you know.
Yeah, and I got a lot of pushback for that tweet. Because I was saying, because somebody tweeted out that Steve King was a white supremacist and he's going to this other white supremacist thing. So I tweeted out, and I said, is Michelle Malkin and John Miller, I guess they're white supremacists too. And somebody was like, oh, we're not TPUSA. And it's like, yeah, TPUSA uses minorities as tokens to try to attract other minorities for the sake of attracting minorities.
For the sake of diversity itself. That's not what we're doing.
Just, to perpetuate diversity itself with no other intentions whatsoever. We are not pandering to Blacks or minorities or saying that, oh, we have base minorities and stuff. Right. But when there are exceptions to the rule, because there are exceptions to every rule, where certain minorities like yourself can see reality and see the reality of demographic shift and big tech censorship and how America is losing its cultural identity and what America should be, which is a Christian country with a strong European ethnic core. When you're good on those issues, I really don't care what race you are. If you're pro-white, like, I'm gonna hate you because like you're like, that's like some Wignat purity spiraling nonsense.
Exactly.
I think, you know?
The purity spiraling is really what gets to me, because it's so schizophrenic. It's like, just be pragmatic. It's like, Nick had a really good point. I don't know what speech or what stream he said this in, but America First really is like, agree with or have a strong foundational core as far as your ideology goes, be a paleocon, and be America First, and whoever wants to come to the party can come. Now, is that going to be disproportionately white guys? Yeah, that's true. But if someone like Michelle Malkin or John Miller wants to join the party and be one-offs to the general rule, then I don't see why you would be so so offensive as to say, no, they can't come also. You know, this isn't even about someone like myself. I just mean in general, like, why would you want to scare people off in that way? You're already going to get the demographics in theory that you want in the movement. You know, I don't expect all of South Dallas to be like, oh shit, Nick said what? I'm going to go to AFPAC. Like, no, that's just not going to happen. So I think when the messaging is right, you're going to generally get the makeup of the movement that you're going to want, without having to do that weird, like you said, purity spiraling. It's really counterproductive, honestly.
And don't
That's
get me
just my
wrong,
take.
if there was like some type of white advocacy group, and that their main cause was just promoting whiteness or whatever, like a Jared Taylor type thing or something like that, where it was a movement surrounded by specifically perpetuating whiteness or whatever, and they didn't want to accept minorities into their group, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm totally freedom of association. Yeah,
I have no problem with that, but that's not what America First is. America First is legitimately trying to change the country as a
exactly.
whole, right? So I think that it would just be a net zero to just ban people because of their race when they have all of the right talking points and they're pro-white themselves,
Yeah, exactly. It's really about, and this is for me, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, it's really about promoting freedom of association and like the ability of every group to advocate again in their own interests.
Absolutely.
I just don't see the downside in that at all. And not to go full Stefan Molyneux here, but it's actually immoral to grant every other group except certain groups the right to advocate in their interests. It's deeply immoral. So, and that's what we're seeing now. But I think someone like John Miller would totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that people get confused with that loving your own group and wanting the best for your own group doesn't mean that you have to hate other groups. It doesn't mean
Right.
that you have to, like the purity spiraling thing. And I think a lot of people get confused about that.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree. So not to go to e-drama here, but so speaking of the Wignats, you had some hot takes. I'll chime in as necessary. You were more involved in kind of some of the hotter takes, and we'll probably get into Beardson here in a little bit, but you were a little bit more.
Jordan
Hey,
redemption arc.
the Jordan B redemption arc. It's happening.
Do it.
It's happening in real time.
Do you think we should give a little recap of just like some talking points of the events that occurred?
I will totally give the ball to you and let you have court with. I'll put the
All
ball
right,
in
so
your
I'll
court
get.
with that.
How about so? All right, so I'll try and give a little summary of what happened for people who aren't completely totally in the know, and then you give your opinion. I'll give my opinion. Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have more to say than I will because I've purposefully tried to stay out a little bit because I have a tendency to get too involved in e-drama, and I don't want.
They called you the Forrest Gump of the movement. That
Exactly.
Every historical event, Jordan B is there.
Honestly,
but,
I took that as a compliment.
It's pretty funny.
I was like, that's a very apt analogy. But
yeah.
I'll let you go and I'll chime in as necessary. But you can go
right.
for
So
it.
I mean, I'm the same way type thing where I don't want to really get involved with e-drama or whatever, especially like infighting or whatever. Like if it was when it was Beardson and Pat and Beardson started going after Pat, I said I'm not making a decision until Nick speaks on it. I'm not getting involved. That I'm loyal to Nick and the America First movement. It's not my place to say anything right now, right? But then once Pat started talking shit about Nick, then that's when I was like, okay, you're betraying the movement. But anyway, so this is basically what happened for people who aren't completely in the know. From an outsider's perspective, I do not have any insider information. This is just from what I witnessed. So Pat Casey, who is the self-proclaimed CEO of the movement, or was, he decided that he wasn't going to go to AFPAC, which was a bad look because he's supposed to be a Groyper general and one of the main faces of the America First movement. So Beardson called him out on that and said, how that's a bad look. Why you're doing that? That's a bitch move not to go to AFPAC. Patrick Casey went to Nick Fuentes and said, can you please intervene and tell Beardson to stop talking shit about me on stream, which originally Nick Fuentes did. He told Beardson to stop, and he did stop. The next day, he apologized, but I guess apparently he went off again. Patrick Casey approached Nick Fuentes again, said, please tell him to stop more. Nick Fuentes said, look, it's not my place. I'm not his father. I'm not going to continue to go back and forth. And I also think that you owe people an explanation why you're not going to an event that you're supposed to be this like one of the faces of the movement. So Patrick Casey, what? Go ahead.
And also Pat was, and this is my understanding, I don't know all the relevant details, but my understanding is that Pat was also telling people that they should go, but he wasn't going. Mm-hmm. So it's one of two things. Is it so dangerous that your followers shouldn't go? Or are you just saying you're not going, but you're still encouraging your followers to go? That was what I heard also.
Right. And then so now Patrick Casey did a stream and he came out and he started saying, well, Nick Fuentes is under FBI investigation. He stabbed me in the back. These people are trying to ruin my life. It's a conspiracy to push me out of the movement. And I was at work, and then you're texting me. You're like, are you watching Pat's stream? And I'm like, no, why? And you're like, oh, he's talking about why he's not going to AFPAC. And then you're like, holy shit, he's saying that the feds are investigating Nick Fuentes and stuff like that. So I turned it on and I'm watching it, and everything he's saying, I'm like, it didn't click in my mind like, oh, maybe this is really true. Maybe this, because I'm always thinking like, I'm going to see what Nick's response is.
Mhm.
But the first response I had in my head was, this fucking guy, after everything that Nick Fuentes did for you, you're revealing sensitive, privileged information to a stream because why? Because Beardson was too mean to you,
Right.
right?
Right.
So in my opinion, Patrick Casey is a bitch. He is no longer my Irish brother. He is nothing more than an autistic, backstabbing potato monkey. I am revoking his white card as one of the as one of the whitest members of America First that I've met. Maybe Scott Greer was whiter than me, right? But I am revoking. We could have a vote on this, but I'm revoking Patrick Casey's white card. He is now aligned with all the other Wignats who think what they're doing is virtuous and helping white people, but in reality, it's just treachery against their own people. If he really didn't want to go to AFPAC, he could have said, "Look, I'm not going for personal reasons. I have." Looked at the situation and assessed it and realized that it's not good for me. I'm not discouraging anybody else. If you have to look at your own personal situation and decide whether or not it's good for you. No hard feelings. I understand people are mad about that, but that's what I have to do, and that's all I'm going to say about it. And then he could have went off on Beardson or just ended it. Or if he really wanted to distance himself and he was dead set on leaving the America First movement, he could have said, look, there's irreconcilable differences between me and the America First leadership, and I think that we need to go our separate ways. I'm grateful for everything that they have done for me, but I don't think that it's working out, and I want just a clean break and no hard feelings, stuff like that. Instead, he betrayed the one person who has given him political relevance over the last 2 years. Because if you don't know about Patrick Casey, aka Reinhard Wolf, the fucking autistic robot, throw 1488s in chat so I know you're not a normie or whatever, he
I saw
has
that.
like destroyed everything he has touched. He was on red ice, right? Which got him nowhere as Reinhard Wolf holding pagan flags like a homosexual. And then he takes over the leadership of Identity Europa, horrible optics. And I know people personally who were doxxed and had their information leaked because of his gay little Discord servers and stuff.
And then,
Then,
side note, that was the only L that Groyper War #1 took. Was
yeah,
when he was asked by Charlie Kirk, "Aren't you the guy from the viral moment? Identify Uvrapa?" And
yeah,
Charlie Kirk's cringe, obviously, but that was the only L that Groyper War took was because of him. And
absolutely.
actually, Nick did him a favor by bringing him into the movement. He had nothing going on.
Exactly. And then
Like,
same thing with AIM. Every political venture that this guy has taken part of has been a complete failure. So he's a complete failure in everything that he's done. And then he latches on to America First. And despite his baggage, Nick Fuentes still takes him on and gives him political relevance,
I was
gives him
shocked when Nick
basically
brought him
money.
on. I
Me
was
too. So was
shocked.
I. So because I knew who Patrick Casey, I'm not going to like incriminate myself, but I was peripherally involved with one of his failed political ventures in 2017. And luckily, I disassociated myself with it like literally 2 months before everybody got doxxed and all this information got leaked and stuff like that. And that could have destroyed my life, you
Right.
know? So when he came onto America First, I was like, okay, well, I mean, that's nice of Nick. It's weird because he has really bad optics, like from previously. But for him to do that, he is just a complete backstabbing bitch. And I don't see how anybody could see it any differently. And I feel like if you're still defending Patrick Casey, then you're just a traitor and you're not one of us. And people want to say, oh, it's a schism. It's an America First civil war. No, a civil war would imply that people within the same movement are fighting. Patrick Casey betrayed the movement. The movement is Nick Fuentes, right? It's a hierarchical movement. There
Exactly.
is no America First without Nick Fuentes, okay? There's
Exactly.
other prominent people, obviously, but Nick Fuentes started this. This is the movement. It's not about a parallel ideology. We have allies and stuff like that, but the movement is Nick Fuentes, and he deserves your loyalty. If you're not going to be loyal to Nick Fuentes, then it's not a civil war. You're just not part of the movement anymore, and you can go fuck yourself.
Well, and see, that actually ties in nicely with what the redemption arc ties into, is that this isn't about me specifically, but it's a tie-in. Beardson and I kind of buried the hatchet when he was on. I guess ostensibly we buried the hatchet when he was on stream. And I think this is what a lot of people missed when I was, posting my L's a few months ago and getting dunked on by Beardson on stream. The thing is that the movement isn't about me. So when I'm not going to sit here anytime drama happens and act like, oh, I'm hurt. This is horrible for me. It's like, now I can take my L, whatever, and go home. And I have a life outside of this, but it's still America first. It's America first till the end. It's not JB first. It's not Patrick Casey first. It's not my feelings got hurt, therefore fuck you guys first. No, it's about the movement. And insofar as you're hurting the movement or sowing division, I really can't be on your side. Did I like Patrick Casey's content? Do I think he's a smart guy? Yeah, I do, honestly. But at this point, you're hurting the movement. You are causing infighting. You are turning your back on someone that gave you a chance. And I appreciated what Beardson had to say, and it resonated with me, because that was the whole point of a lot of those things that were going on. Was I was just trying to, not take the L, but also say, I really don't care. I care, but I don't care about my own ego in this thing. It's AF. It's right here. I really could care less if someone says something shitty about me. Pat Casey wasn't able to do that. If someone said something shitty about him, he implodes and starts saying, well, I'm taking my toys and I'm going home.
It's complete insecurity.
It's not healthy. It's very, and I'm, I don't like to, masculinity post or anything, but that's very feminine behavior.
Absolutely.
It's incredibly feminine behavior. Oh, you attacked me. Tell him to stop. Tell him to stop being
He's
mean.
a 31-year-old man, right? Fighting with another 30-year-old, and he goes to a 22-year-old because he can't handle his own beefs. And he could have literally just kept it between him and Beardson. Him and Beardson could have just gone off with each other, and it could have just faded away. Jacob Lloyd is going to AFPAC. He doubled down on his loyalty.
Jake Lloyd is a perfect example of how to handle this. Jake Lloyd could have gotten the same treatment from Beardson, but Jake Lloyd didn't go the same route as a 31-year-old man. Jake Lloyd decided to double down on his loyalty, probably had conversations in private about his concerns and why he wasn't going, future aspirations he has that maybe going could hurt him on. Well, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But he did that privately, and he made the phone calls. He communicated.
Yep.
Pat imploded. And and it doesn't even have to be private. Here's the thing. If you like good content, this is kind of what I learned with Beardson. If you like good content and you have a beef with someone, go on stream and have it out with them and discuss it. Pat didn't do that. He could have jumped on stream with Beardson at any point. And I know Beardson would have been game for that. Pat could have gone on to Ethan Rouse's show when Nick was on there that night. He had multiple opportunities to address this, either in public or in private. And this public self-implosion, I don't dislike Pat. I just don't think it was smart to do that. I don't know.
Absolutely not. And you said you liked Pat. I never really liked him. I thought that he was smart and he had I liked his content. I liked his content. Yeah, no, I thought that he was completely boring, had no charisma, and had the personality of like a wet towel. But I thought that he was smart. I thought that if Nick Fuentes was associating with him, I trust Nick. Fine, that's whatever. But I never really thought there was anything really truly special about him, and I thought that he was more of a liability considering his past. But I trust Nick or whatever. But as far as what you were saying with your redemption arc, this is what I was trying to say on our first stream together, was that all these other people who get criticism and they get butthurt and then they leave the movement and then they do things to try and subvert, sow doubt, and cause division, whereas you were introspective, I guess. You were able to assess and take some of the criticism, say that some things were valid, and I guess try to work on yourself, but it didn't make you betray the movement. It didn't say, oh, well, now I don't like them because they don't like me, which is great. And that shows that you're loyal to the actual movement. For me, for example, like I said, I've been involved heavily with politics on social media and stuff like that for about 5 years. And people were saying, oh, you shouldn't talk because you've only been involved with America First for the last couple of months. I've been watching Nick Fuentes religiously since 2018. I was involved with Patrick Casey since early 2017. I'm not even going to get into that, but I didn't attach myself to the movement until I basically got the okay to because I didn't want to just jump in and then me say something and then both hurt myself and hurt the movement or something like that or whatever, right? When Nick said oh, you have good optics, it's good to have you in the movement or whatever, then I was like, oh, awesome. Down, right. I can jump into this full force, which I have. But if Nick Fuentes or anybody else in the hierarchy was critical of my behavior or said, look, what you're doing is not helping us, you're hurting us or something like that, okay, whatever I have to do to because I'm not doing it for clout. It's not even about exposure. I want to try and contribute to this thing as best I can. And I think the way that I know how to is by trying to make videos, make content, post things and stuff like that. If that was somehow hurting the movement, then I would stop.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about us personally. That's the thing. It's you have to have that 30,000 altitude, that 30,000 foot altitude view, where it can't be about you. It has to be about the entire landscape. It has to be about what the movement is about, the ideology that we want to push. If things that, like you said, if things that I were doing were harmful and I was told that, like I did, I would stop it. You know, it's like, it's not about my feelings. It's about where I want the country to go. And if that means, you know, stop doing XYZ and start doing XYZ, so be it. I'm really not going to, like I said, take my toys and go home.
Mhm.
Because I think that this movement is something special. When you really look at it, you look at the kind of grassroots support that this movement has, and the kind of online army that we're able to mobilize at a moment's notice. And
Exactly.
and actually it even goes deeper than that. I realized this in Phoenix. It's not even some online army of trolls, you could almost see like a BBC article.
Mhm.
Online, you know, Groyper army assembles to ratio XYZ person on a tweet. No, it's actually it manifests in the physical too. Nick is able to get thousands of young people, many times teenagers, to
Exactly.
fly to cities to buy
Mhm.
tickets to get hotel reservations. That is not something that the Republican Party can do on its own. That is very
100%.
specific to
Without funding, without millions of dollars.
no funding, no funding. I mean,
Totally grassroots funded by the people that support him. And I wholeheartedly believe that Nick Fuentes, like I tweeted, that Nick Fuentes is going to be able to change the country for the better. If there is a political solution, if there
Nick is
is a
it.
way forward, Nick Fuentes and the America First movement is the way forward,
Yeah,
right? And all these people want to say, "Oh, you're loyal to an e-celebrity and blah blah." What? Because he's online? No, he's a legitimate political figure who has single-handedly essentially changed political discourse in the conservative movement. He
yeah.
changed TPUSA's stance on immigration by having, like you said, young people mobilize and go to their events at a moment's notice. Now he's constantly making national news. He's officially in the congressional archives because of the impeachment trial, which I'm in that video as well. I will forever be in
That is
that
so
video,
epic.
right? So that
That
I'm
is so
bragging
epic.
about that forever. Right. And like you said, he is able to get young people, hundreds, to appear in any state at a moment's
Thousands,
notice, right?
thousands
Thousands,
sometimes.
right? Yeah, like in Washington, D.C. And they have such enthusiasm and they're so excited and they have like this genuine thing that it's not because they were bought, it's not because they were propagandized to through millions of dollars funding by institutional power. It's because they resonated with what Nick Fuentes was saying because he knows how to articulate normal feelings and things that we're told are that have been pathologized into not being normal in a great way, right?
Exactly.
And people want to say like, oh, how did optics work for you? It's working pretty good. We're the most successful
I
dissident
liked that
political
tweet.
movement
That
in
was a really
history.
good tweet. What was
Yeah.
that tweet that you had again?
It was like, oh, how is optics working for your boy? Haha. And I was like, oh, well, if you consider being the most successful dissident political movement in modern history that's able to get hundreds of people to show up in any state in a moment's notice and is constantly making national news and has single-handedly transformed the conservative discourse in America in less than 4 years, I'd say it's going pretty well.
Yeah, it's going well. It's like, yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny
What
because,
what what are Wignats doing right now? If you go on
well,
the
and
Wignat
that's so funny. That's what I was going to say. And I had a tweet about this also. I said, what's the Wignat cope at this point? That Steve King is secretly a Fed that's already been arrested, and Michelle and Vince are they're working with the Feds to subvert Nick or something. Like at this point, like we're winning. We're literally winning.
Everybody's a Fed now. It's great.
Everyone's a Fed, Steve
Yeah.
King included. And I, you know, when I saw Steve King get announced that he was speaking, Vindication Nation, I was like, that literally erases not every concern, but most of the concerns that people had about the OPSEC and kind of the subversion of America First. You're telling me that Steve King is going to show up to an event that's Fed infiltrated? Like,
Even Keith
it
Woods was
doesn't
saying
even
that's
make
impressive.
sense. Yeah, well,
I don't know. I have
I
mixed feelings
want
about him. He's an
no,
enigma.
I
He's an
agree.
enigma. You know, I know.
I don't want to say because I don't want, you know, someone to clip this and be like, you know, Civnats love Keith Woods. It's like, no, that's not me, first of all. But I
I'm not
like
a
Keith
Sibnat, but
Woods, and
yeah.
I want Keith Woods in this movement. He's a brilliant guy. He's very smart.
I wish he just didn't associate with Richard Spencer, but everything else seems pretty based. Everything else that he says.
That's the only thing. It's who he
And he
associates
said
with.
one thing that I didn't like. He said that what did he say? He said Amnats are just Wignats going the speed limit, which is complete nonsense. That's not true at all.
I don't think that that's. I
No,
don't
that's
think
it
that
makes
it's
no sense.
accurate.
Wignats, people, I mean,
I don't think it's accurate.
Wignats has been the term Wignat has been abused so much, and it's basically just become we just label all of our enemies the Wignats at this
Right,
point, right?
right,
But Wignats is basically Whigger nationalist, right? And
right.
what it comes down to, they have general characteristics where they're materialistic, they idolize race above everything else. They're over emotional children. They don't understand the importance of political rhetoric or strategy, and that's what they are. They're racially conscious leftists. And
Yeah, exactly. It's someone like Richard Spencer who votes for Biden.
Right, who
It's
says that
like,
homosexuality is the last bastion of implicit whiteness. I think that he literally said that one time.
yeah, no, he said that, and he's done some wrestling with his buddies before. I've seen clips where he talked about wrestling in college with his friends while they had not many clothes on, and yeah, it's hot stuff. You can get it at a lot of different places. But yeah, man, I'm excited for AFPAC. I'm excited for John Miller's speech. I'm excited to see who the next speaker will be.
I'm
Yeah,
excited
man.
to meet up with everybody, bro.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
That's like, after everything that has gone wrong in this country and like how horrible things are going with the Biden administration, how politics are so boring now, meeting up with all these people who I talk to online all the time and that like have the same views as me is awesome.
I was talking with someone, I'm not going to dox him. I was DMing with another content creator yesterday, and we were talking about how interesting it's going to be to have so many different personalities under one roof.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to have like, I'm going to meet Beardson for the first time. I've never met Beardson IRL before.
Really?
That's going to never, I think he's a good guy. I've always said that actually, even through all the shit that was going on, I was like, that's his brand. I still think he's a good guy.
I'm never going to doubt him again because, like I said in our first stream at Stop the Steal rally, the first one that I saw him at, he was like one of the people I was intimidated by to approach and ask for a picture, even though he's like up to my waist. But I was like, yo, this guy he's like a dick on stream and stuff like that. But I approached him. He was the nicest person out of everybody. He was super nice.
The thing is that like, and I realized this when I went to CPAC before I was even like online or did anything online. I went to CPAC last year. That's what started all of this. That's what put all this into motion. I met all the people that I followed online for the past 3 years for the first time. And it's like the internet persona goes away once you shake someone's hand. It's like, hey, we may have beefed online, whatever. Nice to meet you, buddy. Mm-hmm. Like it all goes away. It's super cool. I'm excited for it, man. And Florida is open. Unlike DC, we wouldn't be able to go to a restaurant in DC or go out for lunch or whatever. In Florida, it's going to be wide open. So I'm stoked, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And also another thing with Beardson too, when he first started calling out Pat, I was like, this is something that I didn't say, I was saying this in the group chats. I wasn't tweeting it publicly or anything. I was like, I'm not going to give my opinion, but I just think that this should be kept private, like among like the hierarchy and the people.
I told Beardson that too on Ethan Ralph's stream. I asked him on like an innocuous question. I was like, don't you think there's an argument to be made that maybe you should have just kept this private with Pat? And he acknowledged it somewhat, but he gave a good response if people want to go back and watch it. But he
was completely vindicated because if Beardson didn't do this, right, Pat might still be part of the movement. And meanwhile, he is a spineless snake who could just implode at a moment's notice. And it's good that he was exposed and he exposed himself at this time, because maybe if it was a couple years in the future when America First is even bigger and more prominent and he had privileged access to even more sensitive information and then he wanted to do that, then it could have really fucked us, So I mean, so I think Beardson has been completely vindicated 2 times in a row now that I've seen, and I don't think that there's any reason to doubt him. And honestly, the same thing with Puma. I know Carter's your boy, so I'm not going to talk shit about him, but it's just the same thing. You get criticized and then you leave the movement, right? And it's like that. Where is your loyalty? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with you about leaving the movement. What my litmus test is do you actively try to subvert it?
Right.
Because you can leave a thing, you can leave the party, but there's a difference between leaving the party like a social gathering, you pick up your toys and you go home, you leave the party, but do you call the cops on the party or do you spill the secrets of every person that's at the party still? Carter didn't do that. And
good analogy.
You know what I mean? Like Carter did leave the movement, and like you said, he's still my friend. Did he leave the movement? Yes. Did he go out on, kind of a bad note? Okay, maybe, but he's not pulling a Pat Casey and saying, hey, you guys are, dumb civnats and don't go to AFPAC and it's all stupid. So I'll grant Carter that much, and that's not what I can say for Pat,
Right. Well, I've never spoken to Carter, so I'm not trying to talk shit about somebody that I don't know or whatever. So I just know from an outsider's perspective what's posted on Twitter. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Carter saying, oh, well, when Nick approached me and said that, we're having a problem with the group chat because they're posting Sonnen Rads and swastikas and stuff like that, and we're having a problem with that. And he was like, oh, he came to me like he was some type of teacher. And that's when I realized that he was gay or something like that.
I saw that, but to be fair, that was in DMs. That was not, and
It was a group chat,
it
wasn't
was a
it?
group, it was a group chat.
It's still, you
Um,
know, it's like us being in a group chat and me saying Nick Fuentes is gay or something like that. You know, like
yeah.
it's still like,
Well, the gay thing didn't.
and Puma is apparently, from what I heard, I don't know
I
him
don't know
either. So,
much.
like
I don't know
like
much about Puma. I don't
I
know
know, like
much
I'm not
about
trying
that
to
guy.
like I'm saying, I'm not trying to talk shit about people I don't know. That it could be false. This is what I'm hearing, so I'm just explaining what I'm hearing. People are saying that people that them and other people that are associated with them are in group chats encouraging people to retweet like disunity and subversion in the American First to sow doubt in it, right? And Nick called it too. Nick Fuentes. I'm not saying I don't know about Carter, but
No,
I'm
no,
saying
no. I know what you're saying.
yeah, you know, and Nick
It's
Fuentes said it too, that he said that these people are being subversive. They're doing things that we've specifically said that we are not for, and then trying to associate it with American First, which is subversive Talmudic behavior.
right, right. That is. I can't. Really can't speak to whether or not Carter is doing that specifically.
No, I don't think he is. I
Um,
was saying in general.
but
I
yeah,
think
I get what you're saying though. The general like the subversive behavior against America First. It's out there. It's out there for sure. But like I said, I think the difference is being, you know, overtly subversive to the movement versus
mhm.
just being like, well, I'm done. I'm going to log off.
Yeah, that's
And I think
I don't know. That's fine.
largely, I think that's what Carter did. But you know, he can speak for himself. He's a grown man. So
Yeah, I think he did.
um,
He did just like kind of deactivate and whatever, and he didn't really continue to do anything. So I don't see any real problem with him. I seen a problem with like other people, like
mhm.
T-based, that Groiper guy
Well,
who,
T-Base is totally different. T-Base just
yeah,
went off the rails in the net. He thinks his money buys him influence in the
yeah,
movement.
yeah,
It's
that was
like, dude,
retarded.
you can drop $1 million. That doesn't mean I need to respect your opinion. Like,
Mhm. And
if
that,
that
I don't know
were,
if you know who that Groiper guy is, the guy that he was making all of those action figure
oh yeah, yeah,
action figures
yeah.
of people.
Those were kind of some of those were funny. It's just cringe.
Some of them were funny at first, but he just kept doing it. And it's like, all right, the joke is over now.
I
Like
saw that.
you killed the
Yeah.
joke, and he's still doing it. It's like fucking 8 months later, and he's still making them or whatever. I
Oh
blocked
my
him
god.
eventually, but yeah, he turned into a total complete wignat, and now
Yeah.
he's like totally against Nick Fuentes, using the same. They're so unoriginal. Every single like talking point against America First and Nick Fuentes is boils down to three things: optics, cuck, booger eater, and catboy. That's it. That's literally right. What else?
Optics.
What else?
Well, and this is the most offensive one to me because I'm going to be honest. I do have a Wignat friend,
Mhm.
which is he's Venezuelan, which is like super random. Like some of
That's
these,
it. That is funny. There's
it's
more.
so
There's more
funny.
minorities about
It's
among
so funny. The Wignats have an overrepresentation of minorities that
yeah.
America First doesn't have. He's Venezuelan and he's a total Wignat. The one that's most offensive to me is Christ cuck. I hate that. It
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's like it like not hurts me, but like it kind of does because it's like you are willing to disregard. You're willing to sacrifice your soul to be edgy on 4chan and
Mhm.
talk about, well, that was just a, what did they say, like a Jew on a stick or something?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, dude, get out of here, man. That is like,
absolutely.
that's
It's
overtly
just
disgusting to me.
I mean, I don't have. We probably don't have time to go into complete detail of why just that entire thing is completely wrong. But the basis of it, I think, is Varg and all these other neo-pagans basically ruined a whole generation of racially conscious white people by pushing them away from Christ, by saying that Christianity is not a European religion and stuff like that. It's like you're historically illiterate. Christianity
Yeah.
is what held Western civilization together for 1,500 years. After the collapse of the Roman Empire, Catholic monarchies and the papal states basically formed ethnic borders and were the reasons that they were protected. They unified under Christianity to protect themselves against Muslim hordes, and all of the pagans were converted either by sword point or because they were willing to do so. And I think that Christianity is inherent in European identity, and part of the reason that we were imperialist and colonialist, one of the main reasons was to spread Christianity. It was considered inherently European for thousands of years. So if you are anti-Christian, I consider you anti-white because
Right.
we're not pagans. Who's pagans? Scandinavians and some Swedish people or whatever. Like it's not European anymore. It hasn't
Right.
been in over 2,000 years. You can appreciate the culture and okay,
The
I almost
aesthetics.
said something unoptical, but there was this country one time that had like parades about like the culture of their previous of their previous times, right?
Got it.
And but they weren't pagans, but they were appreciating the culture and the aesthetics and like you said, whatever, right? But that doesn't mean that they were promoting like, oh, we sacrifice children to
We're
oak
gonna go
trees and
to
shit. Yeah,
We're gonna worship
yeah,
Odin in the,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Like you can appreciate the aesthetics and like it's part of your culture and stuff like that. But also, once we converted to Christianity, we carried over that culture that we were praying to pagan gods and stuff, and used it and transformed it to pray to Jesus Christ. Once we realized that was true, like people want to say like, oh, we stole things from pagans. We were the pagans. pagans. We adopted it because we realized new truth. Everything that we were right about was fulfilled in Jesus Christ. And people like, I don't know, I don't understand how you could be against Christ and then say you're pro-white.
Yeah, atheists and Wignats do that a lot. They all say like, "Oh, well, you're celebrating Easter. Well, look at how the rabbit actually is, some pagan tradition." And it's like, yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm saying that we evolved from that to worship Jesus Christ. Like, it's actually not that complicated. You're like, you're schizophrenic and you're anti-white and anti-Christian, like you said. Um, no, go. You're good. You know more about this topic than I do. You go for it.
Now, another thing that I noticed is that if they're not completely against Christianity, what they do is they try to make their own subversive idea of Christianity. Like, I don't know if you've heard of the Christian identity movement, which is basically the white version of the Black Israelites. They believe that the missing tribes of Israel were Aryans and all this stuff, and that the only people going to heaven is exclusive for like this like one type of like
Yeah,
Anglo Amish people, or not Amish people,
yeah,
Anglo whatever it is. And it's like, bro, like you're basically conforming your racial idolatry
to
to fit another thing. And
exactly.
it's
You're replacing God with race.
yeah.
And that's not to say that race is irrelevant. Like, obviously you and I are like totally in
Mhm.
alignment here. Like, we're not saying race is irrelevant, but it's also not God.
Right.
It's also not a stand-in for religiosity or
Absolutely.
any belief in any afterlife or anything. Like,
And
yeah,
I suggest everybody look up the Classical Theists article on Catholic dogma of their position on race according to the Catholic magisterium. I read
that's
that
interesting.
article.
I didn't know that. I have not read that article. Where's that?
Right. Just look up Classical Theists. I'll try and send
Okay.
it to you after the stream. But yeah,
I'll
just
post
type
it on
in
my Twitter. We can both post
Mhm.
it on our Twitters.
Yeah, Classical Theist wrote an article about where the Catholic Church has historically stood on race. And basically, they had our position. They said that race is important to the culture, and the like homogeny is valid, and to promote your group interests are valid as long as it's not taking place of God, like we basically said. But it's not saying it never said that we need complete diversity. It was specifically against any immigration that would harm cultural cohesion.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So this
That's
is all,
perfectly in line with what we
yeah,
believe.
it's completely in line with Catholic theology or whatever. So saying that
Mhm.
how could you be racist and Christian? And it's like, we're not. First, racist is an arbitrary term. We don't have to get into that.
Right,
But
right.
it's not evil to acknowledge that different races are unique and have the right to perpetuate their group interest. I think it's more evil to promote this Marxist idea of egalitarianism where race is completely irrelevant and nothing matters, because identity is important to everybody, whether you
Yeah,
know it or not.
exactly. Exactly. And I mean, not to go off the rails too much here, but talking about the church and race is actually funny because inversely, the way that we're talking about our, how much we venerate the Catholic Church or venerate, God or the church in general, the same could be said inversely about the left and liberals venerating race and worshiping race as if that's their God in the same way that Wignats do. So, the left will replace something like, adherence to Christian morals with diversity is our highest value. And it's really funny that inversion that's taken place like in real time. It's only been like the last 20 years, but diversity is their God. And I know it sounds trite, but like to really think about that, diversity is their God. Because I had a tweet a few weeks ago. I said, if you asked your average leftist or even a liberal, would you rather your son be a racist or him be a pedophile?
Hmm.
That answer would be split a lot more times. That there is a very good chance that there's a 50-50 answer to that, more than you think.
Yep.
But on the right, Boomer Khan would be like, well, obviously they're going to say, I'd rather my son be a pedophile. No, or I'm sorry. On the right, most people would say, yeah, obviously they're going to say that I'd rather my son be a pedophile than a racist. But you'd be surprised. I think a lot of the left would rather get away from that racist label than they would the pedophile label, is what I'm saying. That answer is going to be split a lot more times than you think it would. That just shows their commitment to being anti-white, being pro-diversity, anything to run away from the racist label. So it's actually an interesting thing to think about. And I actually implore a lot of people who are listening to this, if you talk to any leftists, ask them, would you rather your son, they have a small kid, if you're in a conversation like this, ask them, would you rather your son end up being a a racist or a pedophile, and where do they go?
Well,
It's an interesting thing to think about.
well, I mean, you know how like we were just talking about this, how we always used to call like everybody that disagreed with us pedophiles, right? And it became kind of like a meme, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, anybody who doesn't like me is a pedophile. But it is kind of true, because if you're not on the right and you don't believe in natural order, you don't believe in gender roles, you don't believe in hierarchy and stuff like that, then basically the position that you're pushing, whether implicitly or explicitly, is this abstract idea where basically every type of lifestyle is completely acceptable except for racism, right? Racism if you're white, racism if you're white is completely unacceptable. Everything else is fine. Gay, transgender, anything. And we've seen this, that it's just a progressive downward spiral from wanting to give gay people rights to wanting to give them marriage rights to now wanting to give them special rights. And now if you even criticize gay people, now you're homophobic and you should be in jail. You need to bake them the cake, all this stuff. So it's just a never
Similar
ending.
story to the Civil Rights Act of '64, to be honest.
Exactly.
I hate to
Yep.
say it,
It's
but it's true.
100% totally parallel. But it's this continuing progressive. So what is the end result? The end result of all of this is pedophilia and bestiality and all of
Right.
this other stuff. It's destroying God for these isms, for these ideological nonsense. And people say that it's a meme. Oh, they're not Marxist or whatever, but it is neo-Marxism, because
Yeah.
Marxism is basically they want to destroy the class structure for this impossible egalitarianism. Now this neo-Marxism is basically wanting to destroy ethnic and religious and racial ideology identity for impossible egalitarianism,
Under the
right?
guise of class warfare.
Right,
And it
exactly.
actually and it's really tough with this newest form of neo-Marxism, because I think of someone like AOC, who I know, like, BoomerCon's listening. Obviously, AOC's dumb and she's evil, blah, blah, blah. But she highlights like a lot of legitimate points, and a lot of the left highlights legitimate points. Bernie Sanders, they highlight things like debt, which is usury, which she could be called anti-Semitic tomorrow if if the right person got a hold of the article.
Right.
But she highlights things like debt. She highlights things like inequality. These are legitimate things, but it's a Trojan horse.
It's their solutions that are wrong. Go on.
Exactly. And what they're gonna do is they're not gonna make it fair and erase the student debt for the middle America guy who got trapped into the state college. What they're going to do is erase student debt for black and brown bodies.
Right.
That's why they want to do it. So I think it's really tough, and a lot of people, it's this over empathy that we have now. It's like a feminization of our society where it's like, well, I just want to do the right thing for the people. And it's like, that's true, but your empathy is being used against you.
Exactly. It's pathological altruism used against
Exactly,
our own.
exactly. It's pathological altruism being used against the host nation by a subversive class. We don't have to name them, but a
Not the
subversive
Amish.
class. Yeah, exactly. It's the Amish.
Mhm.
Subverting the very natural empathetic feelings that we have. But yeah, I mean, it's really tough. A lot of people, like normie friends of mine, they're like shocked when I agree with AOC on something. Directionally, I'll agree with AOC. I'll be like, oh yeah, I agree about student debt forgiveness or
Right.
something. And it's not that I'm against that. It's just that the way that they're going to implement it is just going to be inherently anti-white.
Right. It's their solutions that are the problem. Because I said this before, I compare Wignats to like these neo-Marxist people, where we have parallel grievances and we could acknowledge that there are certain things that are wrong with certain subjects. Like, for example, with the Wignats, we are understanding that white identity is important. There is an attack against white people, and white people have the right to fight for their group interests, right? With these neo-Marxists and stuff like that, we can agree that capitalism is basically state-sponsored usury, and
Right.
that it is really not sustainable for a prosperous nation to have an unregulated free market, right? Now we can agree with those things, but that doesn't make them allies, because everything else and all their solutions that they propose are completely psychotic. Where Wignats want a complete genocide, or they want to forcefully separate everybody and do these unrealistic things, or neo-Marxists basically want to criminalize being white. I don't know, like, what I'm saying? Like, it's just like
Yeah.
they might have parallel grievances where we could acknowledge that we have certain similarities, but when it comes to like, okay, what are we going to do about these grievances, they just go completely off the rails.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing pragmatic there. And
Mhm.
and I think that's why I like America First, is because it's like the one pragmatic solution to kind of like the ills of society that we're seeing. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't have to go full on, we need to start, shooting people with net guns and tying them up, and we're going to export, throw them out. It's like, no, we're going
Not
to
yet,
start.
not yet.
Not yet, exactly. we're going to start a political action conference, and we're going to get speakers there, and it's going to be a slow grind, but we're going to propose a solution to this thing. And
Yep.
I really don't see the boomers. Scott Greer was doing a podcast the other day. He said that he was talking about Romney's chances in 2024. And he was saying that you'd be surprised how much support Romney would get from the base. And Scott Greer is 187 IQ, so I'm not going to disagree with him, but I think he's wrong. I don't think the boomers are going back to sleep after this. I don't think the GOP base is going back to sleep and going back to business as usual as far as the GOP goes anymore. I think the GOP has crossed the Rubicon. I think the future is things like AFPAC. I think the future is people. The future is people like Ron DeSantis, Hawley to a lesser extent. Not
Trump
Ted
woke up a
Cruz.
sleeping giant. Yep.
Yeah, it's done. 75 million people realize that their voice doesn't matter. I mean, you don't really go back to sleep after that. And I also don't think, and we both know this, Nikki Haley is not someone like the future. I mean, and that's an entirely different video.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
no,
what do you actually? Well, question posed to you: what do you think about the future of the base, basically? Because we don't really represent the base. We represent like the younger core, the online sphere, and I don't know how many of this.
right. Well, we're like autistically hyper aware, and most people
Exactly.
aren't like
And
that. Most people are, and the sheep need to be led. Like
Exactly.
they're not. You know what I'm saying? So
We're the ones changing the larger conversation. But I mean, like your voter in Des Moines, your Republican voter in Des Moines, Iowa, or Oklahoma City, or Lincoln, Nebraska. What do you think the future looks as far as their view of the GOP goes? What do you think it looks like for them?
Right. Well, I think Nick had the fortitude and the knowledge to come up with this plan, or at least the foundation of this plan, at 19 years old, which is insane because I was sniffing Xanax at 19 years old, right?
Dude.
So like I was like a complete degenerate, and this guy was coming up with a plan to like save America, right?
I was doing ungodly things at 19 that I'm not doing anymore.
Exactly. I completely disavow all my previous.
I
behavior,
disavow
obviously,
myself
right?
on this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But he basically said it's a multi-generational fight, right? Where what the plan is to build an infrastructure behind the scenes and get people, America First people, in positions where when opportunities arise, we can push the ball in our direction and we can change the conversation. And in 4 years, the progress that he has made with this movement is absolutely insane, and it's only the beginning. And people need to have higher impulse control and not want that instant gratification where they think that the country is just going to change overnight. And they find out, like that was me when I first got red pilled, right? I found out about like certain historical events not being completely accurate and stuff. And I was like, well,
Pizzagate was a huge one.
Yeah, I was like, if people just knew what I knew, everybody would wake up. Like I just have to tell people this stuff, and like we'll change the world. And it doesn't work like that. People's brains don't operate like that, right?
You're right.
So
right.
you have to have that pragmatism, that nuance. You have to have political strategy, understand rhetoric, and adapt to situations, not get blackpilled. And as far as normal people, I think, like Nick said, and like I have said, as conditions continue to deteriorate, nationalism is going to become inevitable because they're going to be faced with the evidence of their country being destroyed and understanding that they're not being represented. And even if they can't articulate things as well as we can, especially as well as Nick can, they have this natural feeling like something is not right. Why am I being told that I am evil? Why is everything that I think is natural and everything that I can perceive with my eyes and my gut intuition, why is that wrong, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to start searching for these questions, and hopefully America First will be there.
Yeah, I think it's such a good outlet. I mean, even in my my normie my old high school friends, we're in a group chat, and I've started to notice over the last, and like you said, it's very gradual. I've noticed that like a lot of the responses to political events and like social and current events, the response a few years ago when they would see something anti-white would be like, these are commies who hate America. And now in 2021, what I'm seeing when they see something that we know that we would both diagnose as anti-white, they say these people literally just hate white people.
Yeah.
And then that's when it starts. That's when they're starting to say in my normie chats or in my normie group chats, they say, aren't they just racist against white people? And then that's when you can slide in and say, well, actually, racist is a word that only it's a one-way street. You can only apply that to white people. And actually, when you look at the etymology of the word and where it came from, it was invented in 1919 by Leon Trotsky,
Yeah,
also
yeah,
known
you
as
get
Les
you get a little.
Bronstein.
It's like people saying like, oh, yeah, what they just like don't like white people. Oh, really? Well, do you have time to watch a
Well,
6-hour
yeah,
documentary?
yeah, but it's like you can slide in there because they're noticing something that's so true. It's like,
Yeah,
exactly, I've been trying to tell you, race
yeah,
is prescient. It's not everything, but it's
yeah.
prescient. And
Yeah,
I think that's where you start to slide in because, and that's another video we can do at some point. But
but it's
a black,
crazy to me how people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying that a black person has never had their life ruined um, by being called a racist. The closest you would get is someone like Nick Cannon, who said something
About Jews.
slightly anti-Semitic.
Not even he
Anti-Semitic.
just agreed that there was overrepresentation of Jews in the media, basically.
Exactly. And then
And
he had a rabbi on his show, and he's fine now. But
yeah, it's
he's
great,
fine.
but it just shows that
It's a
the caste
one-way
system that
street.
who is at the top of the caste system that we have. White people are at the bottom, and then you have who else? I don't know who's
You have like
Native Americans, maybe Northern Africans that could pass as white. I don't know, and then you have like trannies, gays,
trannies,
blacks, and then Jews are
immig-
all the way at the top. You cannot,
immigrants,
for
black
some
people.
reason, any
Or
criticism of Jews as a group is completely unacceptable no
you're
matter what.
done.
But Nick Cannon can call white people subhuman and
He called
savages
them
because they don't have
animals.
melanin in their skin. That's completely fine. But acknowledge that there might be an overrepresentation of Jewish power, then you're an anti-Semite, you're the most evil person in the world, and you
You're
have
gonna
to have rabbis on your show to
and you're
teach you
gonna
how to
have a
properly.
live struggle session on your podcast. You
And
know.
he just happened to find out right after that he actually has Jewish ancestry.
Oh
He's
wow.
actually descended from Jews. Like he didn't know. That's
Oh,
crazy.
dude, that's wild, man. That must have made for interesting conversation at the cookout, at the family reunion that he
Yeah.
was at the next day.
Oh.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's probably a good time,
Right.
a good time that we had. Unless anything else you got,
Good.
man. That's all I
Nothing off the
had. But
top of my head. Yeah, I mean, no, I think that was a good discussion. That was got a lot off my chest.
hell yeah, I'm
But
glad. I
yeah,
could see that. I could see you got a
mhm,
lot off your chest in this one. But
yeah,
yeah, man. I will see you in Orlando.
absolutely. We gotta do a video in Orlando. We gotta do
Dude,
some
no, I was
stuff.
gonna say that we should actually maybe like think of. I'll
Do
bring
it.
my camera and everything. We should maybe think about doing some content from Orlando. That could be good stuff. So
Absolutely. I think that I mean we could talk about this in private too, but I think that the night that I get there, we should maybe meet up at night or something, and
yeah,
then we could
yeah.
also meet up before AFPAC as well. So
When are you getting in? Actually,
I'm getting in Thursday around I think 5 or 6,
okay, I
and
get in Thursday afternoon.
okay, great. So then I'll go to my hotel or whatever, and then we could figure out how to meet up. Kyle, Frank, I know you guys don't really like each other,
I
but
know we're
hopefully we could.
fine, dude. But
Hopefully
actually,
we can.
you know what? Just to bury this, just to table this discussion. Yeah, okay. We don't get along in the group chat. I don't have any real problem with Kyle Frank. I wish we were more cordial, but it's not going to be
You've
like
never met, right? You guys never
we've
met in real life?
never met Kyle Frank.
Maybe you guys will get along.
Yeah,
Maybe
no, he's
Black
fine.
Jewish alliance.
Yeah, it's like an epic handshake. Now
Yeah.
he's fine. I don't have any true problem with Kyle Frank. It's just
Yeah,
we
no,
have some beef,
he followed me since 2016 before I
really,
knew any of
really.
this stuff. He was following me on Instagram. By the way, my main Instagram account,
Oh yeah, yeah. Plug
SpeckzoPolitics.
yourself. Go for
Yeah,
it.
my main Instagram account, SpeckzoPolitics, got banned after 5.5 years of running it, which is very sad and very disappointing. I've been trying to appeal it. I don't think I'm gonna get it back, but
Where are you at now on Instagram?
yeah,
Where can we get you?
Speckzo_. That's the name of it. But like I said, my main platform that I think everybody should follow me on, besides Twitter, which is at SpeckzoPolitics, is Telegram, t.me/Speckzo. If I get banned from everything else, hopefully I'll still be there, and I post all of my OC on Telegram. So,
Nice, nice. All right, man. Well, I
I'll
look
see
forward to
you
meeting you
back.
IRL. I will see
Absolutely.
you in a few days, man.
Sweet. See you later, man.
All right, later, bro. Have a good one.
You too.